The woman gets in at 2:19 a.m. on a Tuesday, and the first thing Milo Reyes notices is that she isn't bleeding. He notices this because she should be. The call came in through the dispatch app. Standard pickup, corner of Voss and Meridian, no special instructions. But when she slides into the back seat of his '09 Camry, her coat is dark and her hands are in her lap, and there is something about the way she sits that makes him check the rearview mirror before he puts the car in drive. Not anxious, not drunk, not the particular stillness of someone having a bad night. Something else. The stillness of someone who has finished something. Where to? He says. She gives him an address in the warehouse district. Take surface streets, she says. Not the highway. He takes surface streets. 3 blocks of silence. The city slides past. The neon pharmacy, the 24-hour laundromat with its warm yellow light. An underpass where someone has spray-painted "This is not a city anymore" in letters 3 feet high. You work every night? She asks. Most nights. You like it? It suits me. What does that mean? It means I don't have to pretend to be awake during the day. She makes a sound that might be a laugh. He checks the mirror. In the passing light from a street lamp, he sees her face clearly for the first time. Early 40s, dark hair pulled back, a cut along her left jaw, thin and recent, that she has not bothered to attend to. There's a first aid kit under the seat, he says. Left side. I'm fine. I know. It's there if you want it. She doesn't reach for it for 2 blocks. Then she does. For years of nights teaches a person things that the day hides. Milo Reyes is 46 years old, the son of a Puerto Rican electrician and a teacher who still sends him books he doesn't read but doesn't tell her that. He drove days for 2 years after his divorce, the divorce being the event that reorganized his life the way an earthquake reorganizes a city, not destroying everything but ensuring that nothing sits quite level afterward, and then switched to nights because the days had too many mirrors in them. He has a degree in philosophy from a state school that has been useless in every practical sense and quietly foundational in every other. He thinks about ethics the way some people think about weather, not as an abstraction but as a condition he is always operating in, always checking, always adjusting his plans around. He has driven in 4 years of nights. 3 people in active labor, 1 man going to a meeting that turned out to be a suicide attempt and whom Milo drove instead to an emergency room after a conversation he has never told anyone about, a sitting city councilman in a state of undress, for people he is fairly sure were carrying drugs, 1 person he is reasonably sure was carrying a weapon, and any number of passengers whose business was none of his and whom he delivered from one point to another without incident. He has never had a passenger like this. He knows what she is not because of anything specific she has said or done, but because of the aggregate of small observations his nights have trained him to make. The way she scanned the street before she opened the car door. The way she sits, not against the seat but away from it, her weight forward. Ready. Her name, he will learn, is Nadia Voss. Tonight she is the woman in the back seat using the first aid kit with the practiced efficiency of someone who has used first aid kits in the back seats of moving cars before without a mirror by feel. You expecting someone to follow us? He says. Why do you ask? You've checked the mirror 6 times. Same interval. A pause. Habit. Okay. You notice things, she says. It is not a compliment or a criticism. It is an observation, like identifying a characteristic of terrain. For years of nights, he says, you notice or you don't last. She is quiet. Do you want to know what I do? He asks. Only if you want to tell me. I'm asking because it will affect your decision. What decision? Whether you continue to drive me where I ask to go, or whether you stop the car. I was contracted to kill someone tonight, she says. He keeps his hands on the wheel. The light ahead turns yellow. He brakes rather than runs it. Was? I didn't. Why not? because she was 23 years old and she didn't know what she'd been put in position to know. She was a data analyst at a financial services company. She found something she wasn't supposed to find. She told her supervisor. And somewhere in that chain, someone decided that the cleanest solution was to make her not exist. I was the clean solution. But you didn't, he says. No. So now the people who hired me know I didn't complete the contract. And the woman I was supposed to kill is on a bus to her sister's apartment in Portland, because I told her to get on a bus and gave her the money for the ticket and told her not to use her credit cards until the story I'm going to make sure gets told is told. Who are the 3 email addresses? He says. A journalist, a federal attorney, and the data analyst's personal email, because she deserves to know what they were willing to do and why, and she deserves the evidence to protect herself with. He is quiet. They are 30 seconds from the address. Why are you telling me this? Because you're going to decide in the next 30 seconds whether to drive me to the address or to stop the car. And I would rather you make that decision with accurate information than without it. He pulls up to the address. The building is dark, a converted church with high windows and a side door. He puts the car in park. He sits for a moment. The building's been closed for renovation for 8 months, he says. There's a cafe on the corner that opens at 5. The owner is a man named George Patel who I drive home on Friday nights. He leaves the side entrance unlocked when he's there early. George Patel is 63 years old and came from Gujarat 40 years ago, and has the particular quality of someone who has fed people across a vast spectrum of conditions and learned to do so without requiring an explanation of the condition. He opens the side door and looks at Milo, and then at the woman beside Milo, and then at the cut on her jaw, and then back at Milo. Table in the back? He says. And a power outlet. Coffee? Please. George Patel nods and leads them to a table in the back corner, which has not yet turned on its main lights and is lit only by prep lights behind the counter, giving the space the quality of an aquarium. Everything slightly blue-shifted, slightly suspended. He brings coffee. He does not ask questions. He returns to his prep work with the complete attention of a man who has understood that some things happening in his establishment are his business and some are not. The journalist is Carla Mendez at the Tribune, she says. She's been working on the Allgate Capital story for 14 months. What I'm sending her fills the gap she's been missing. The federal attorney is David Park in the Southern District. He has an open investigation that went cold 8 months ago because the key witness recanted. What I'm sending explains why she recanted. The data analyst is named Sophie Ellison. She's 23 years old. She's on a bus to Portland. She didn't do anything wrong. No, he says. She found a discrepancy in a quarterly report. It took her 2 days to understand what she was looking at. 1 more day to decide to tell someone. That decision almost killed her. He thinks about the right decisions that don't produce the right outcomes. The light ahead that he breaks for rather than runs, consistently because it is correct, regardless of whether it makes him late. Sophie Ellison looked at me when I came into the room. Nadia says. She was afraid. She didn't know who I was or why I was there, but she knew something was wrong. And she looked at me and the thing she did was, she said, "Are you okay?" I came in and she was afraid and she asked if I was okay. A pause. I don't know what to do with that. He thinks about what it costs to be seen at the moment you're trying to be invisible. Most people don't, he says, know what to do with it. She goes back to her screen. He watches the window. George brings more coffee without being asked. He does this sometimes, Milo knows, when he thinks people need something they won't ask for. He sets them down and goes back to the counter without comment. She transmits at 5:58 a.m. He watches her send 3 emails in sequence, the journalist, the federal attorney, Sophie Ellison, and each transmission takes less than 20 seconds, which given what they apparently contain seems too fast, though he understands intellectually that the speed of transmission has no relationship to the weight of what is transmitted. She closes the laptop. She sits. George brings pastries nobody ordered. He does this sometimes, Milo knows, when he thinks people need something they won't ask for. The people who hired me will know within the hour that the contract wasn't completed, she says. They'll know by mid-morning that the documentation has been transmitted. By afternoon, if Carla Mendez and David Park respond the way I expect, Allgate Capital will be in a position where the story is running faster than any counteraction they can mount. I have a sister, he says. She has a cabin 2 hours north. She doesn't use it between October and April. I have her spare key because I go up in February to check the pipes. He pauses. It's not a solution. The 6 weeks, maybe 8, depending on how fast things move. But it's off the map. Why would you do that? She says. He thinks about this question. It is, like most important questions, both simple and not. He thinks about 4 years of nights and what they've taught him about the city and the people in it, about the specific quality of 5:58 a.m. in a blue-lit cafe with the weight of 3-cent emails still in the air. Because you turned left when you could have gone straight, he says. And because Sophie Ellison asked if you were okay. She is quiet for a long time. I've done things, she says, that can't be undone. I know, he says. I'm not offering absolution. I'm offering a cabin with working heat and a pipe that needs checking in February. He drives her north at 6:30 a.m. The city falls away from them gradually, the way cities do when you leave before the day shift has fully taken over. Not a clean departure but a dissolution, the density thinning, the buildings getting shorter, the signs advertising different things, then the signs thinning too, then the long roads through the kind of countryside that has no interest in being scenic and is therefore genuinely beautiful. They don't talk much. This is fine. He has spent 4 years learning that silence in a moving car is not the same as silence in a static space. It has a texture, a forward momentum, something to do with the fact that you are going somewhere together even when you don't know what you'll find when you get there. At some point she falls asleep, which he understands is both a practical necessity and a form of trust, and he drives carefully through the early morning winter light. The cabin is where he expected it to be, at the end of a gravel road behind a tree line. He pulls in and the tires crunch on frost and Nadia wakes up immediately, fully, without transition. It has heat, he says, with stove plus electric. There's food in the pantry. I'll leave you the truck keys on the visor. She looks at him. February, he says. The pipe on the left side of the basement runs cold. I'll come to check it. That's 2 weeks, maybe 3. You'd come back, she says. I said I'd check the pipe, he says. She almost smiles. It is not quite a smile, but it is the nearest thing to one he has seen, and it changes her face considerably. She gets out. She stands in the thin winter light, looking at the cabin. She turns back. Milo, she says. It is the first time she has used his name. Yeah. Sophie Ellison will be all right. I know. How do you know? Because you made a decision at 2:19 a.m., he says. And the decisions you make at 2:19 a.m. are the real ones.